Hello everyone, this is Yakto, and this here is going to be the first part of a series about tanks and their weak spots, where to aim to take them out or to deal module damage. And let's start off by showing you some modules on the tanks. As you can see here, here's the commander's cupola. And here's a viewport. The Tiger has several viewports, but you can only see one here. You got smoke and grenade launchers. They're not really active in the game as of now, but they might be active later on as they implement smoke and HE grenades against soft targets like infantry that might be nearby the tanks and so on. Here we have the coaxial machine gun port. You have the gunner's sights here, two holes in the gun mantlet. Obviously here's the gun. You have the bow machine gun here, and you have the vision slit for the driver, the so-called driver's hatch here. So you have a radio operator sitting behind this machine gun. You have the commander it's the loader standing here. You have the gunner standing here, and then behind him is the commanders looking out through this cupola for targets and directing the tank. So that's the crew. In some tanks you have less crew, in some other tanks you have more crew than 5 people, but often the tanks tend to have a crew between 2 to 5 people. And last but not least, here's the main drive sprocket on both sides. If you take that out, the tank can't move forward, so that's a good thing to remember. And you have the threads here on the sides. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the Tier 1 tanks. First off, we have the T-26, and where to aim at the tank if you are a Tier 1 tank. Well, if you want it to stop, you can hit the threads here on the sides. Possibly you'll knock it out. You can also hit this weakly armed flat area called the lower glacis, or the upper part of the hull where there's a vision slit for the driver. That's also non-sloped, so the less sloped the armor is, the greater chance you have with penetrating an armor piercing shot. So here obviously the plate is more sloped, and there's a less chance that you will penetrate if you fire at this angled plate. So red stands for something that you shouldn't fire at, because that will probably bounce, and yellow either stands for modular damage or an uncertainty to penetrate. You have a low chance of penetrating, but it's still possible. So the turret is well sloped all around, and it will probably bounce if you fire at it. However, you might penetrate at some angles. And then you have the gun mantlet and the gun itself. So if you fire at the gun mantlet, you will cause gun breach problems, probably killing the loader. You might kill the gunner. You might render the gun inoperable. And here you have the viewports for the gunner, and if you knock those out, the gunner can't see anything. He also have or maybe that's the commander's viewports. Yeah, the gunner has an aim here where he has a gun sight. So moving on, Here's the T26 from the side. It shows you all the torsion bars and wheels. If you hit them, you might render the tank immobile. And here you have the engine. If you hit that, you will cause a fire, most probably, or an explosion. Here's the compartment where the crew is seated, and they're also seated here and up in the turret. And if you hit this area, it will bounce. And I'm not sure what this is, but it's some kind of exhaust, so if you hit that, it won't be effective at all. And here's the viewports from the side and the gun. If you hit that, the tank can't fire back at you. Most tanks aren't made to take fire from the sides, so they're not sloped if you come at them from the side. And also, if you fire this crew compartment area, you will most probably kill gunners and the driver, radio operator, or the whole crew. So yeah, tanks are designed to get, if they are fired upon, they're designed to get fire from the front and not from the sides or from the rear. So naturally the weakest armor are situated at the sides and the rear, and the thickest armor are at the at the front. So let's move on. And here's the BT7. You can see here that the BT7 is pretty well sloped on the sides, so avoid hitting these areas of the hull, because if you hit here, the shell will probably just bounce off into the thread, rendering the tank immobilized or immobile. And obviously if you hit the threads, you might immobilize the tank. So what you want to aim for is the flat parts of the hull. Here the lower glazes, and then perhaps even the upper hull, which is sloped, but you have the driver's hatch here. So if a shot comes in and bounces up into the driver's hatch, a hatch is a weaker piece of armor, because it's not welded in one piece. It will budge more easily and give way for the shell. So if you hit the hull and the shell bounces up, you might penetrate the hatch. Also, you can aim for the lower part of the turret, just under the gun, because that part of the turret is pretty flat and non-sloped. However, on the sides of the turret, you have these well-sloped areas that will probably bounce most shells for its tire. And another weak spot should be the gun and the gun mantlet, since it's not armored at all. So if you hit that, the shell will just go through, killing people in the crew in the turret. And you have the vision ports up here. If you shoot that, the tank shouldn't be able to look around using the commander's view ports. Okay, so let's see the BT7 from the side. As you can see here, there's no slopings whatsoever from the side. The tank is pretty unsloped, and you can hit whatever area you want, except for the front part of the turret, which will probably bounce a shell off. And if you hit the gun, the viewports, or the wheels, the tank will get modular damage, but not anything other than that. You won't kill a crewman. So, moving on. Oh, let's jump back one. So, T60. The T60 pretty well sloped. You have a weak spot in the lower glacis, which you can aim for. It's not that sloped in comparison to the upper hull, which is very well sloped and not it doesn't have a thick armor, but it's considering the angle, it's pretty well armored. What you should avoid firing at is of course the turret, which is sloped, and you also have armor plate for the autocannon and the machine gun on the side, so that will protect the crew and the turret. However, there's a vision slit up here that is completely unarmored. So if you hit that, and if that weak spot is in the game, you will knock out the tank for sure. And also you can aim for this slightly less angled driver's compartment area, if you can call it that, which is also armored, but it's less sloped. And you have the driver's hatch here with the vision slit. Obviously if you hit this area you will kill the driver. So next shot. Here's the same tank from the side. You have a vision slit up on the back of the turret to give the crew a view backwards. If you shoot through that, you will probably kill the crew. Otherwise, you see that the turret is pretty well sloped, so it might bounce shots if you fire at it. So what you want to aim for is either the engine back here or the crew compartment up here. If you penetrate somewhere around here, you will kill crew and possibly cause ammunition fire or something like that, killing the crewman and knocking out the tank. If you hit back here, you will disable the radiator, engine, it might be set on fire and so forth, and the road wheels, which will immobilize the tank. So moving on. The T-70 then, is there any differences? Well, not much. You still have the weak low glazes, which you can aim for, and the driver's compartment with vision slit, slightly angled, but still at a less angle than this upper hull armored plate. So I would go for this or the lower part of the turret, or the turret ring that would jam the turret, and it might also kill the crewman inside the turret. You also have a small commander's cupola up here, so hitting that might kill the commander. And there's also a viewport. There's also a sight for the gun. I don't know if that's implemented in the game as a weak spot, but if you hit here, obviously there's no armor on a glass lens, so the shot will just pierce straight through. And the same with the machine gun. And if you want to knock out the gun, you aim for that. However, do not fire at the turret because it's pretty well sloped and well armored if you are an reserve or tier 1 tank. So looking at the T-70 from the side, it's basically the same setup as the T-60. You have the engine compartment at the back, the crew compartment at the front, non-sloped. You have the turret, which is quite well sloped, so avoid firing at that. However, from certain angles you might penetrate, and you can also opt for knocking out the gun if you want that, or immobilizing the tank by shooting the wheels. The T-28 then, a classic tank, the first medium tank in the world of its kind. it has, it seems, only weaknesses. You have this great hitbox here. If you hit that, you will cause transmission problems, possibly setting the oil in the transmission on fire. The tank might blow up from that. If you hit this area that is not so well sloped, you will kill either the radio operator or the driver or some other crewman. I don't know what he does. Maybe some machine gun operator who's sitting in this turret. So yeah, you have one crewman here, one crewman here behind the driver's hatch, one crewman here. So if you want to kill crewmen, you aim for these areas. And also there's the loader who's operating this machine gun port up here, and the machine gun port is non-armored, so you can aim for that as well. And I would imagine that 37mm shell from a German gun would penetrate the gun mantlet as well and knock out the gun breech or set ammunition on fire and so on. However, avoid firing at the side of the turret, because the side of the turret is actually pretty sloped and it might bounce shells off the side. And also you have the same standard view ports up here that you can shoot at if you want to blind the tank, let's say in simulator battles later on when they have implemented it, or in realistic mode. So how about the T-28 from the side? Well, it's basically the same story. You can fire wherever you want, but not at the front of the turret, because that might bounce a shell. And also if you hit the turret at a high point, it might also just bounce off. But the rest of the tank is almost unarmored. It has very weak armor. You have the road wheels down here, some road wheels here and here. If you hit those, you will immobilize the tank, just as with any other tank. So the SIS 30 then, how about that one? Well, it is pretty non-sloped. You can fire at any area of the hull. However, the gun mantlet or the gun shield and the gun seem to be, if you hit that, you just make the gun useless, but you won't take out the tank if you hit this area. That will probably come later on when you will have visual crewmen and so on. How about the SIS 30 from the side? Well, you have this weird sort of boxy-like thing at the back. Oh, sorry about that. We will have it paused, of course. So you have this weird boxy thing at the back. I can't imagine that that will cause much damage, other than maybe some compartment damage. You have the road wheels here, and then the engine is here at the back, and there's also this crew compartment area up here. And obviously if you hit the gun, that will make the gun useless. So there's nothing special to say about this tank, just fire wherever you want at it. And then we have the backbreaker of any German team, the T-34, the prototype, 1940 prototype. The T-34 is an absolute beast, and you will have problems with penetrating it. However, you can penetrate it at certain points. One point being the machine gun port, the other is the driver's hatch. You have the driver's slit here, which is basically a periscope. If you hit that, you will cause damage inside the tank. You have the turret ring. If you hit that, you might immobilize the turret. You might also kill crewmen in behind the turret ring. However, avoid firing at this very well sloped and well armored area at the hull, and avoid firing at these the gun mantlet and the turret. However, if you fire at these points on the side, the shell might bounce down into the tank. It depends on how the turret is, if it has turned at either side or not. And you can knock out the gun by firing at that, and yeah, the viewports as well. And then there's the T-34 from the side. That's also it could be problematic firing at the T-34 from the side, especially this upper part of the hull is pretty well sloped. It has the same angle as the front of the hull, so it will bounce shells, and the turret might also from certain angles bounce shells off. However, you have a vision slit here. If you hit that, it will probably go through, and if you hit this non-sloped area up on at the turret, that will probably also pierce. And as you can see here, the turret ring is a pretty big area to aim for. However, there's a much larger area beneath the upper part of the hull. The lower hull here is non-angled, so if you pierce somewhere here between the thread and the road wheels, there's you have a non-sloped area firing at. So if you fire here or here, you will kill crewmen inside the tank, and if you fire here and here, you will hit the engine, and so on, causing critical damage. Over to the German tanks, the Panzer II. It's pretty straightforward. You can aim at the low glacis or the upper parts of the hull, the gun mantlet, the turret ring, the commander's cupola. This is sort of a box, so if you hit that, it will fly off. If you hit this area from straight on, it will also bounce. And I would imagine the side of the turrets will bounce. The turret will bounce, and the upper glacis will also bounce a shell or two. So looking at the Panzer II from the side, it's pretty much the same thing. Here's the engine area, here's the crew compartment, and if you fire at that, you will hit the non-sloped area. However, some parts of the turret might be somewhat sloped, and they might bounce a shell from an awkward angle or so, but most shells should go through. However, this part and this part of the turret will probably bounce shells. So over to the Panzer 38T, Czechish tank. It's riveted. I don't know if that has any importance in War Thunder. However, it had in real life, because if you fire armor piercing or high explosive shell at an armor plate that is riveted, the rivet will let loose from inside, will be shaken loose, and it will fly around inside the tank like a bullet, killing crewmen. So if they have taken that into account, this tank could be somewhat of a death trap if you manage to break up the armor pieces. Also, riveted armor might fall off in pieces once a couple of nuts have been blown off by high explosive shells. So, where to aim on the tank? Well, you can hit the lower laces, the driver's hatch, the machine gun port here, and the vision port next to the machine gun. And also this whole area is pretty non-sloped, so with a normal armor piercing round that should penetrate. And you have also this pretty non-sloped area with a vision slit. Hit that and it will go through. However, do not fire at this area because that is 50 millimeters thick of armor, so it has an extra gun mantlet armor. You can also fire at the gun and penetrate, and the machine gun here on the side, and vision port next to the gun, and also the vision slit up here. So from the side it's no problem penetrating. You have the engine at the back, crew compartment, a vision observation port here, or a window that you can aim for, and the side of the turret is not sloped. That also goes for the commander's cupola. So the Panzer III, the F variant, this time from the side obviously, that is, as many of the German Tier 1 tanks, not a problem penetrating from the side because they tend to be quite weak, unarmored, or they have armor but they're weakly armored from the sides. Go for the engine or the crew compartment, and also shooting at the side of the turret is a good option, or the vision slits or the commander's cupola. From the front, however, is a different story. You can aim for below laces or the upper hull. However, it's 30 millimeters thick and it might bounce a shot or two. However, this area is not sloped, so that will probably not bounce a shell. But this area probably will from a Tier 1 tank. And this area, if you fire at it from the front, it will just bounce a shell straight up into the upper part of the hull. It might penetrate, but the shell might lose some momentum from the bounce as well. So you have the gun mantlet. It's somewhat armored, 30 millimeters thick, and it's bended. It's been bent, so it's sloped, somewhat sloped as well. And you have a gun mantlet that provides some extra armor, and the viewport here, machine gun port, and driver's hatch, and the commander's cupola are all weak spots. You might as well also aim at these triangular shapes on the side of the gun mantlet. They're not sloped, but you risk hitting these bits on the side with well sloped armor, and if you hit these bits, the shell will just bounce off the side. So the Panzer IV-C then, the first of the Panzer IV as of now. It's more or less the same story as with the Panzer III. Aim for the lower laces, the drivers or the radio operator's vision slit, the driver's hatch or the upper hull, which is non-sloped. You can also go for the gun or the commander's cupola. However, the rest of the tank is pretty well armored, and it will probably bounce shells, or it is well sloped and will bounce if a shell hit it. Also, here's the radio antenna. I don't know if that will be a weak or a module that might get shot off. Hello, moped again. But if the radios are something that can be damaged in the near future, this might be a module that might take some damage. So the Panzer IV from the side, just shoot anywhere at the hull. You might ignite the engine or kill crewmen. You can shoot at the turret and the commander's cupola. However, this is a storage box, so avoid hitting that, because that would just fly off and it won't harm the tank at all. And you also have this area that is pretty well sloped. It might bounce a shell if you hit it. And then there's the tank destroyer, the StuG III A model. Here's the same story as with the Panzer III. You can hit the lower glazes to take out the transmission or set it on fire from a transmission oil fire. You have the pretty well sloped upper glazes that will probably bounce shells, and also the upper hull or the superstructure is 50mm thick of armor, so it might bounce shots. There's the upper well sloped area here on this superstructure that will probably bounce a shell. Same goes for this area. That is, it's just a vision port area. If you hit this, it won't damage anything else than the vision port. Here's the driver, so you might go for that. And from the side, you can basically just aim anywhere at the engine or the crew compartment. However, there's a armor plate here that is well sloped, and you have some storage boxes who might get soak up a shot. You have the vision port here. That is also a good target. So that's all for me, and I hope you learned something. Have a good day.